we're going to be talking about wine and the things that go with wine as well as what wine goes with. And we have with us Jim Coulter, who's our resident guru in regards to wine, and Jason Healey, who is our Director of Dining Services and our knowledgeable employee and friend and great wine connoisseur. Glad to have you with us, Jason.
Thank you.
What's happening with wine these days? There's all kinds of different wines on the market, and I mean now we even got things in cans and aluminum with wines. What's going on with all of it?
I think with the market now is everyone's looking at different ways to package and sell in different areas. For even especially in wine, people if you were going out picnics or some people to hiking or different trips, people didn't want to take a glass bottle with them, so you started seeing aluminum becoming more popular, the box itself, or plastic. So those things have kind of changed around, and they've gotten creative. I mean, you can actually buy a glass of wine in a plastic wine glass with a seal on it, and all you have to do is take it off and you're ready to enjoy. So I think as the want changes and where and how people are consuming wine, that's how you're seeing the changes and the difference in those packages.
Right. And the way that you're doing things in the dining rooms, or you're selling it by the small bottles now?
So we do have a little bit more when for our carryout. So people coming up, if they want to order just a smaller bottle of wine, we're trying it out to see how that goes. But we've kind of expanded. So we actually started doing cocktails actually in individual little containers that we make, and you would either we deliver to you, or if you get it through carryout, where you would go and put it on ice at your own home and stuff to that nature and refrigerate. So that's been really popular. We kind of started with holidays doing kind of bigger drinks, like this is like a hurricane here. And what we would end up, doing is this isn't one drink because there's no ice in it. It's actually about 3. So you can put that and shake it over ice. Since this is a hurricane, I would probably blend it. Mm-hmm. So you have those options. But even too, we started going to, just at a request, doing like a little Mimosa Kit. So you can get, your little bottle of champagne, get 2 glasses out of it, little orange juice to go with it. So that's been pretty popular. So yeah, we keep, modifying just based off what we're hearing from residents, what the wants are, and if we can provide it, we're adding that as an option.
Okay. So people now not only can have wine, they can have mixed drinks, right?
They can have, yeah. So actually, because of COVID, Virginia kind of loosened their alcohol laws, where you couldn't have to go mixed drinks. You had to have a separate license. We just had one for beer and wine, but because of, with everything going on, all the restaurants doing just carry out, they allowed them to start packaging and doing, little craft cocktails and things of that nature that people can get either delivered to them or picked up carry out.
Great. Well, Jim, it looks like you've got a fully stocked wine closet there behind you.
Yes, I just got back from Total the other day. I restocked. I wanted to be sure I had enough to get me through this program when you and Jason started talking.
Well, Jim, you're actually the guy that goes out and buys wine quite a bit at Total and other facilities. What's happening out in the market?
One of the things I've noticed in my reading is that a lot of the wineries found that their sales really dropped off when people couldn't come to the tasting room. Mm-hmm. The couple of things I noticed is Total Wine. I should turn around and grab a bottle. Total Wine is now selling a wine they call Hectare, which is a European way of measuring acreage and so on. Yeah. But they're selling it for $2.97 for a 750 milliliter bottle of Cabernet, Merlot, Chardonnay. And Trader Joe's, I saw the other day, has dropped the price on their Charles Shaw, the bottom of the line of their Charles Shaw, down to $2.99, trying to compete with Total. And Jason was talking about buying the little 4-ounce or 6-ounce bottles or so forth. I was thinking I could probably go to Total Wine and buy a $2.97 bottle of wine and drink a glass or two out of that and pour the rest of it down the sink and actually save money that way. And the reason I was looking at that was I was thinking about the wineries. A lot of them are doing virtual wine tastings now, where for $60 or $100 they'll send you 4 or 5 bottles of their wine, and then you log on to Zoom or to their website, and they walk through a tasting with you, and they can do this for 85 or 90 people over the internet, where they can be tasting wine, and you can have a sip of the wine at home as they're talking about it on the internet. I was thinking that was something we could do at Green Spring, perhaps, but now that dining services and management are moving toward actually letting people into the dining rooms again, that the need for doing virtual wine tastings probably isn't there. But now maybe we could think about doing something in the dining room where you could open a fifth, 750 milliliter bottle and pour 20 or 30 glasses and put them on the tables, and you could have a person or a couple sitting at a table and have 30 or 40 tables in a dining room where people could actually be sitting there sipping the wine and talking about them, like an old-fashioned wine tasting. Be interesting when they start doing dining services call-in shows. Maybe ahead of one of the shows, I ask people to call in with ideas about how they'd like to start taking advantage of in-person seating again.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jason, you're already thinking about that, aren't you? And talking about maybe doing a virtual tasting?
Yeah, so what we were in the midst of before we got approved for phase 2 was we were putting together an actual pairing. So it would be a wine, cheese with charcuterie. It would be kind of a little bit more than just wine. And we would end up making kind of that basket, and it would be pre-ordered, and then we would deliver that to anyone who purchased it. And then we would, on TV, be doing the actual tasting and notes. And I think it would even be good to have people call in with what they were experiencing and kind of things of that nature. I think it's something we're still looking at doing, but as you kind of mentioned, moving towards a phase 2, we do have some more options that we can look at, but I think probably anything to that level, we want to wait a little bit and see how it goes initially, just getting people back into the dining rooms and just going through normal dinner service. But it's definitely things that we're looking at and how we can make the program more robust.
But we're going back to being able to go into the dining rooms for the end of the month, the 31st of August?
Yeah, we'll be putting more communication out with more detail on that, probably about mid-month. What we found out over the last couple months was a lot of information was coming out very quickly, and sometimes before you'd even made the change beforehand. So we kind of know where we're at, and we're kind of finalizing it, but we always kind of keep an eye on it. So like I think, about mid-month, we'll probably be on TV going over the details of it, probably do a call-in to let people come and ask us questions, and we'll get information out to everyone. So, we're in the planning stages now of phase 2, and it is, more options, and one of those options is going to be in-room dining in the dining rooms. It's going to be modified, and we'll go over all those details, like I said, about mid-month.
Okay, sounds good. Jim?
One of the things that we've all found out from watching the news is, I guess it's like trying to raise kids or something, but as soon as you loosen the leash, people tend to slip the leash and start running around crazy, biting the neighbors and so forth. I think caution is a good thing to be thinking about. Is open things slowly and make sure everybody is on the same page before you move to the next step. Otherwise, you'll end up like a lot of the bars and restaurants around here getting shut down again because people can't handle the freedom.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. So that's one of the things now, and So just with us this past Saturday, August 1st, starting that phase 1.5 with carryout. Those are things that we're monitoring, like how are people handling carryout? If they have a designated time, are they coming at that time? Are they coming earlier? Are they coming later? If there's another individual there, the cafe being walk up, are people socially distancing themselves from each other, or is that being more monitored by staff? So far, so good. But as the number of people increase, that's kind of the overall that we're kind of evaluating. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. Our goal is to keep moving forward. It doesn't mean that we're going to move forward at an extremely fast pace, but I think it's just as we can keep adding things and adding it in a safe manner. The other part too, I always kind of add is just because we're adding things, we want to also be kind of slow to take things away. Because some people have felt very comfortable in what we're currently doing, and we don't want it to really throw them. So it's how do we keep doing what we're doing, yet how do we add additional options for the residents? And it's a challenge. And I think, our ultimate, we always think about resident satisfaction. We always think, what is, best for the residents. And this time, safety kind of trumps what some of the wants are, and we want to look more at what do we need, and after we've taken care of the needs, that's when we can start adding the wants.
Okay.
You always have a problem too with some people have a situation if they live alone, or like my wife lives with somebody who's annoying, that you get some people can't wait to get out of their apartments and are willing to do almost anything in order to get out and run around and interact with other people. And other people like me would just as soon curl up in the wine cellar and never come out. So it's a tough balancing act for those of you in management to try and deal with those disparate needs and wants, as you said.
Yes, I would completely agree. I think just like anything, we have a wide variety of individuals on campus, and you probably hit the gamut there. I have some residents I don't know if I'll ever see again. I don't know if they're ever going to leave their apartments again. And I have some who, this is probably the first time I've ever seen them with a really good suntan, because all they do is walk outside and try to get sunlight and activity. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to take care of all of those individuals in a safe manner, that we're taking care of ourselves, protecting our residents, and also protecting our staff. So.
Good. Well, one of the things that I've noticed in looking at the paper and the sales of different things is that the wine sales have drastically increased. In fact, all of the beverage sales have drastically increased for the last 4 months. Is that happening here?
We've run different specials and different sales. As you mentioned, Trader Joe's and Total Wine. The one thing, and we reached out. So we actually were able to get some new and different wines that we were selling during COVID that we hadn't had previous. And the reason why we didn't carry them previously, they're really great wines, but the pricing that we were getting quoted, in January, February for them was a little bit higher than what typically people, we noticed at Green Spring wanted to spend. So we didn't really bring those in. We were able to bring a lot of those in. And even too, we had some residents, who didn't really utilize outside wine stores. They kind of they were the person who just always came and had a glass at dinner, and that was, kind of their preference. But now that they weren't able to come down, they were coming and actually buying like a case or buying multiple bottles at a time, and kind of, going off that amount. So, and that's fine. That's what we look for, and we would have those conversations. And some of the wines we brought in were just because they were special requests. So that's one of the things that we looked at. One of the things that I just hate to say, sort of like we're Trader Joe's or Total Wine, they really wanted to get people back out. So some of their wines they were selling at either cost or just above cost, especially like a Trader Joe's. It's really, people go to buy the $2.99 wine, but while they're there, they're going to get some other things that they might not have done. And Trader Joe's in particular was one of those establishments that really didn't do delivery. Where you had Giant and Peapod and, Target and even Costco delivery and things of that nature. Trader Joe's really didn't go that route. And so because of that, They were doing a lot more things to entice people to come into their stores, and it's good for them. I think it works out well, and there's some benefit there. I think what all of us are really looking at is this year we saw some really good deals and values, but I'm curious to see how the growing season goes for grapes. I'm curious to see, how things go in the actual production, depending on the regions and areas and what could be going on at that time. Sometimes you get really good, just nice. The weather takes care of you and the grapes do good. Sometimes if you don't have the staff or the people who are actually maintaining it, really kind of having that tight control over it, you can see differences in the production. So I'm curious to start reading more about that and finding out what they think this year's crops are really going to look like, and from a quantity and a quality standpoint.
Yeah.
The big problem that I've been reading about with the wineries, or one of the big problems, of course, is getting staff or being able to allow staff. A lot of the agriculture business depends on stoop labor or part-time people to come in and harvest the crops or tend the fields. And with the coronavirus going around, some of them are probably having a hard time with staff. I've noticed when we were talking about virtual wine tastings earlier that some of the wineries have curbside service now if you want to call or order over the internet. I've got a picture that I will share with you here. One winery in Maryland is using a dog with a backpack to carry wine out to people's cars. Maybe that's something you want to think about, Jason. You can have dogs running up and down the hall with a couple of bottles of wine on their back to deliver them to people's apartments.
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I think outdoors is a little bit different. I would be concerned about the hallway cleanup if they actually got really good at it.
So, but with that, and when you're talking about the fact of being concerned about how the crops are doing this year, what's the wine going to be like, and already the drops in prices. Jason, do you anticipate that maybe Green Spring would purchase a quantity of wine at a reduced rate for later use?
Yeah, I mean, we have those conversations. We kind of see, I think one of the challenges we always have is storage. You want to store wine and, a cooler, darker place, more controlled. And I'll just be really candid, as we've grown as a community and all the different activities and different things that we do, storage is actually from an operator standpoint, very limited. It's really hard to, we try to offer as much space up as possible. We're not really putting any additional in. And so that becomes somewhat of an issue for us. We do obviously keep a large number or a large quantity of wine, but to get really that volume, you're buying pallets upon pallets.
Right.
So we kind of see in wine, you get a discount if you buy 3 cases, you get a discount a little bit better if you buy 10 cases. And then you really jump into the hundreds to get the larger amount. And we kind of look at that, most of our house wine, we only buy in 10 case increments. Typically when we buy, we're buying 50 to 80 cases at a time. Just because, we can store about 100 cases easily on campus, secure, locked down, it's protected and it's in the right environment. But for us to get like a real discount, I would fill the Acatink room, and that's not something I think any of our pickleball players want me to do. Yeah. So we want to get that space up and open to residents when we can safely. So some of our storage spaces that we've used so far during COVID really aren't available to us as we reopen different phases.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is you probably have got most of your storage spaces filled up with food and frozen stuff that you're saving for making deliveries. Are you going to use up a lot of that the first few weeks of dining rooms? Or are you going to hold on to that in case you need to go back to it?
So to be honest, we're going to hold on to some of it. Really from us, we have constant communication. as the market, and I say that, and that's really a global market to a degree, depending on what we're purchasing, opens back up and people start using it, we see items that we didn't have maybe issues getting prior. We had a lot of conversations with our dairy, because what ended up happening is when all the schools shut down, they really stopped making the kids' milk, and it became kind of an issue because that was something that we wanted to offer. And then we reached back out to them and said, hey, as we're progressing, we know the schools in this area are doing virtual. Is that going to be an issue or a problem? And luckily, enough of I would say senior facilities, hospitals, different areas said, this is, we have a market, we have a need, this is what our estimated value is. So we'll be able to get some of those in the, as it progresses, and we're not worried about that. Other items though, I think we're all kind of curious to see what the fall looks like. Because the one thing that, I kind of tell people about, and I'll use proteins, meat packing factories as an example, everyone has safety protocols in place. So if an employee calls and says, oh, I have runny eyes, I have a watery nose, I have a cough, we automatically treat you under the suspect that you might have COVID. Because of that, we're going to take you out of work for, the recommended amount of time. You're going to get tested. You're going to do these things. What we have up and coming is leaves and fall and allergies and a lot of other things that you can't just assume, oh, well, I always have allergies when the leaves come down, and so now it's fine. Don't worry, I don't have it. We still treat everyone the same. So what we're kind of concerned is if there's any kind of areas like that, or there's larger not necessarily even outbreaks, but just from a quarantine standpoint, if it shuts factories down, we want to have backup supply. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. So even I would say over the last month or two, we've been okay. We haven't seen the substitutes and the changes for food that we saw as much, in March and April. Still the disposables, the containers, I would say would be the biggest one that we always maintain and look and try to stay ahead of, where we were normally keeping, I'd say 3 days in stock. We're trying to keep anywhere close to 7 to 10 days worth of product in stock, just because it really is a popular item and demand can get a little tough out there.
Yeah. You talk about disposables in regards to things. With the new packaging of wines and all spirits now, there's a lot more disposables, right?
Yeah. So with that, there's so many different items that people are using, and we're shifting. That's one of the things that, wine in particular was actually going to a can, was becoming more and more popular. But just I think within the last couple of weeks, Coca-Cola came out, a couple other distributors. I have a friend who has a brewery, and they can't get aluminum. Aluminum production, aluminum cans is becoming more challenging and more difficult. So you're seeing shortages on product, or people changing it up. So like for my friend who's a brewery who had gone almost all cans and was doing very popular with cans during COVID, now had to kind of readjust because his production doesn't handle bottles. It was designed to fill cans and seal it. So he went back to probably what he did when he first opened, which was growler and growler refills, and hey, we'll send someone out to the car, we'll pick up your growler, we'll fill it up with beer, and we'll bring it back out to you. So I think there's a lot of things like that that people are looking at and changing. I think too, because of either shortages or people started going through suppliers that they hadn't gone through before. I like Total Wine, but I do only delivery. So Total Wine will deliver to you, but it doesn't necessarily have all of the items available for you. So like I've even tried wines that I probably wouldn't have tried if I was in store, just because it didn't appeal to me. But I said, if it's part of delivery and to meet the minimum I need, I'll throw one or two in the order. And, and it's a good way. Some of them are really good. Some of them I'll never buy again, but you learn that way.
Yeah. Well, I just recently purchased Michelob Ultra beer. and they were in aluminum bottles, which, in fact, I have one of them here in regards to it. But it's just kind of interesting in regards to it. So,
yeah, no, they definitely have been switching around. Between the glass, aluminum, the paper products, even plastic. I saw. I'll be honest, I don't recommend it for beer, but some people, have switched to. Plastic. A friend of mine who's very environmental makes his own beer, and instead of using glass, he uses plastic, and he can reseal it and doesn't need an additional cap, and it works for him. So.
Good. Well, Jim, are you going to provide some of your storage space in your closet there?
It's full right now, but I'm working on it. Couple of things that I made some notes of here. I see we're getting close to the short of time, but something that might be something to consider, Jason, is if and when you go to doing live in-person wine tasting, either in, like the Jefferson where you can spread people out in the middle of the day or something, maybe get Green Spring TV to record that, and then they can play it on the channel for people that couldn't get to it or weren't interested in going but would like to see how that is done, and watch the show one time and see what it's like.
I think that's a really good point, and I think that's one of the things that, as we go through these different phases, how do we offer something to all of our residents? And that means now, not only if it's going to be in person, but can we mimic that for someone who maybe wants it at home? We had a lot of great feedback with our culinary competition and people coming down and getting carry out. Obviously, and we loved it, and it was great, and it worked for this year. But obviously, we liked the actual last year when we were able to have 300-400 people in a room and have the actual competition and the demos and all that stuff. So, those are the things that we're looking at: is how do we find that hybrid of how can we, if we're allowed and it's safe to have different people in different spaces, but also virtually have people interact with that as well. So I think that's always kind of in our concentration when we do something, is how can we try to incorporate all of our residents. And now more people going virtual, we can actually probably do larger events. Just because there was always a limitation in spacing. We have no space on campus that holds 1,700 people. So but we could have 1,700, residents do something virtually online or see and interact that way. So I think, it's opened up a lot of doors that I think we're really looking at, and getting people who maybe 4 or 5 months ago weren't comfortable in these settings. Me personally, my best friend lives, probably about 200 miles away. And so I see him twice a year. Well, I've seen him more over the last 5 months, and, doing a happy hour, a little Zoom meeting or something like that, and being able to connect. So I think a lot of people have found different ways, and, it's interesting. I always laugh. My daughters know the inside of my mother's nose extremely well, because she's not great at holding up her camera for FaceTime, but they get to connect, and, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Definitely is. And with wine, with beverage, it's always a way to connect with one another.
Absolutely.
With that, any special comments that you have about any of the wines that we currently have available to us of what you might want to encourage people to use, to consume?
I think it's really what you're looking for. We've done a good job of kind of bringing in different varieties. I think really with that, if you're not seeing something that you would like, and maybe a couple of your neighbors would enjoy as well, let us know. Those are the things that we look for. We hate to go out and buy large quantities or buy different amounts, and then there's just not really an audience for it. But if we know ahead of time what people are really looking for, that's something that we'll purchase. It was surprising to us. We definitely sold more white wine even in the winter time than we normally did. So we're seeing from a trending side that we're seeing increases in lighter wines and less full-bodied. But then we have a really strong group who really likes full-bodied, strong red wine. So it's trying to find that balance and make.
You need to have more petite filet on the menu.
It doesn't really do that right when you have to microwave it. So we are looking at having the fillets and other items back. That's what I always tell people, you know, they're like, oh, I haven't had filet. I'm like, have you ever had a filet in a microwave? It's really not that great. But like lamb chops, which we've run several times over this, do reheat a lot better. So that's kind of been the challenge, and I know challenges for our chefs as well. So those are the things that we're looking at. And yes, and I'll be honest with you, you probably will not see filet on your first menu when the dining rooms reopen, but it will be coming back very shortly. We need to get kind of a handle, and we want people to ease into the dining rooms, and filet and crab cakes and all that really bring a lot of people out really fast. So we want to kind of
And lobster.
Lobster does as well. So. So we'll be taking a good look at all that, but we want to make sure we're getting those items that we really haven't been able to do in delivery. You know, someone got fish and chips and was like, "Oh, I was missing it so bad," because if once again you fry fish, then chill it down and serve it cold, and then try to reheat it, it's really not that good.
No, it's not.
So those are the things that we're looking at. What can we offer and do, especially for things that people have been missing? So if you have any suggestions for future menus, I always tell people, reach out to your restaurants or chefs or the people that you dine. We're always looking for feedback and suggestions. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be on the menu, but we do appreciate the suggestions.
You know, in regards to dining, and since we're discussing that right now, a confusion exists, Jason, in regards to people fill out the menu for home delivery, and then it's, well, but I'd really rather, you know, go for one day and pick up. What happens with all that?
So that's great. Thank you so much for asking that. I was trying to find a way to talk about this on a wine show, but when you get your form, and like I said, in September, you're going to see changes. But as of right now, when you get your delivery form, what I tell people is if you see items on it that you really like and you want for delivery, pick those items. So if you have the option of getting 12 deliveries, let's say if you're on the 30 meal plan, but you only like 10 of them, great. Look at the carryout menu that comes with it and say, well, on this day and this day, I'll go down and get a carryout from the cafe, or I'll call Jefferson and Woodlands guys and have a scheduled time and I'll pick it up. You know, it's really what you prefer. The one thing I will tell everyone, because I've had some calls on it, and I know a lot of people, I think especially people on our 20 meal plan, are concerned because they said, well, it's August 3rd and I've already used 8 meals. How did that happen? When your delivery form is turned in, they go in the system and then they take those meal credits from what you've ordered on your delivery form. And then throughout that time period, if you come and get a carryout, then it'll take those additionals away. Where, especially on the 20 meal plan, where people got concerned was at the end of the month. If I have a delivery form where it says I'm going to use 4 meals, but I only have, 2 available to me, are you going to resident charge me those other 2? And even though the delivery is coming prior, they're intended to be in September. So we would only charge you for the meals that you consumed in August, even though you were getting maybe a delivery that you would eat in September. Those meals we would charge in September. So the goal is not to charge you more, just depending on what building you live in and what delivery cycle you're on, you might get meals for another month. Maybe August 31st, you get meals that are really intended for you to eat September 1st or 2nd. We're going to hold and do that charge there. So I know people were concerned. That's not really the purpose of it. But also too, with phase 2 coming out, that's going to be even changing, where it won't be that dramatic and people won't be concerned about the carryover and stuff like that. But just for this month, I know I've talked to a handful of residents and they were concerned that, well, I'm going to order 22 meals, but I'm only eating 20 in August and I don't want to pay additional for the 2. We'll carry that over to September. So you're not going to have to worry about that.
Okay. But if someone turns in a request for the 3-day delivery, and they decide after they've turned it in, they really only want one of those days, what happens?
So at that point, the meal's kind of gone. So we've already taken that information. We've already sent it in, because sometimes where we were ordering, I'd order on, Sunday and it would show up on Monday. Some stuff, especially the proteins, we're ordering in advance,
Right.
and different amounts like that. So really, before you submit your delivery, really go over and make sure that you're positive on it. Because when we get that form, we pretty much immediately, the chefs are getting that information daily. They're putting that into their calculation and orders. And even though it maybe isn't on site, when we reach out to our vendors, they know over the next 10 days, 12 days, or whatever amount, we're going to be purchasing X amount of an item from them. So we're pretty much obligated at that point to buy it, just because of limitations and things of that nature. So really take your time, make sure you fill it out properly. But after we've had it submitted, in my opinion, the money's already been spent. We've charged the meal plan, and we've already reached out to our vendor to let them know. Little changes are like, if you had sugar-free dessert and now you want regular, that's fine. That's not a big ip. But yeah, if you ordered 3 delivery and now you want 3 carry out, right. That's a little bit challenging after we've gotten it. So really make sure that you fill it out and the way that you want it, whether it be a delivered meal or you want to free those meal plans or flex meals up to use for carry out.
All right. Jim, any words of wisdom before we leave?
No, I've got some ideas for future wine shows, and I can't wait to be sitting in the studio with you two guys. But I'll send you both an email with a couple of ideas. Okay. See if we want to do them virtual, or maybe do them in live when we get around to that.
All right, sounds good. Jason, before we leave, any other words?
Just thank you. I think, I'm very thankful for the communication and feedback that, I've been able to receive from our residents. And I'm very thankful. It's very uplifting when we go around and we see all the signs and the notes, and it means a lot to the staff. And even though I've had a couple of students leave over the last couple of weeks, we're getting emails and they're still checking in to see how everyone's doing and things like that. So, I'm just also very thankful for the staff. It's a challenging time, I think, for everyone. And as we progress, we all want, I think, a certain end destination to get to. As my kids would tell me when I drive, I'm not getting there fast enough for them. But
are you there yet?
Yeah, are we there yet? Exactly. So we want to get there safe, and we want to do it where we're taking care of everyone. And there's a lot of consideration, I think, when those choices are being made. But, the support of the residents and the support of the staff all trying to work together has really been great. And I've seen that over these last couple of months. And I think it's really kind of working as one team of how do we keep each other safe? How do we take care of each other? And how do we, as I always tell my staff, how do we get to that finish line? And we do it safely. We do it by moving forward and kind of always thinking. So I love the suggestions, to keep those coming. And just once again, thank you very much, and be safe. Please follow all the protocols, because if you don't, I gotta have to pull stuff back, and I don't want to do it. So please be safe.
And what I'd add to that is, drink safely, don't overdrink, don't overconsume, and make sure you're doing the things you need to be doing. But again, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jim. Glad to have you with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Thank you.